Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 4 of Not the Front Row podcast. My name is Matt.
I'm Jen, and today we're doing one of the quintessential holiday movies, Home Alone. Home Alone's written by one of my favorite writers ever, John Hughes, who also did 16 Candles, Pretty in Pink, Dennis the Menace, which I love, and another Christmas movie, Christmas Vacation. And it was directed by Chris Columbus, who is amazing as well. He did Adventures in Babysitting, Harry Potter, Mrs. Doubtfire. So we got the dudes.
And speaking of the dudes, we also have John Williams returning to score Home Alone. We just talked about John Williams in our previous podcast, Jurassic Park, which should be releasing soon after this one.
Yes.
One last thing about the movie is it cost around $18 million to make and ended up grossing $285 million domestically and got stuck in theaters for 12 weeks because it was so popular, which nobody expected it to do that.
Critics actually hated it.
Oh, really?
It's Siskel and Ebert, who were like, you probably have no idea who
I know
they
the
are.
names, but
I used to watch them every Saturday, but they hated the movie. They said, what did they say? It was too much like another, they just didn't like it. They trashed it.
Well, it's a good thing the normal audience loved it because they kept it in the movie theaters for 12 weeks straight, which was not planned and ended up coining the term getting home alone when a movie stays in theaters way over its initial runtime and ends up overshadowing other movies that were coming out. And you actually talked about how Rocky V came out in the same weekend and got absolutely obliterated by Home Alone.
Yeah.
And then after the initial runtime, a bunch of other movies came out, and everyone noticed that they were not making anywhere near where they were supposed to because Home Alone was still out in theaters for so long. So Hollywood coined the term getting home alone when a movie stays in theaters way over its initial runtime.
Yeah, it came out Thanksgiving weekend, which is typically for when, holiday movies come out, but it ran for the entire holiday season, which is...
way past Christmas.
Yeah, it was crazy.
One last note before we start the movie is that my sister is a Home Alone nut and has very extensive long notes written for this movie. She loves it way more than I do, and she might be taking over most of this podcast.
How do you not love Home Alone?
We'll talk about it at the end.
Oh, jeez. Okay, so we start off this movie in this house, right? And you got all these people running around like crazy.
Talking about,
yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
You can start. I'm sorry.
So we start off in this house. We got all these people running around crazy. My first thought was, how did the cop get in the house?
Yeah.
Nobody knows who this guy is.
The cop's just in the house.
He's just standing there. Where'd he come from? How'd he get there?
I do like that the first thing you see is Harry in like this Playmobil cop costume, just looking around the house, watching everybody just run around.
It makes no sense.
Speaking of that, this house is the most chaotic house I've ever seen. I don't know if I've ever seen another house that's as crazy as this one.
It was nuts. Because they're all getting ready to go to France for the holiday. The kids are running around like crazy, and the cop's just trying to get to talk to an adult.
Yeah, nobody is paying attention to the cop.
No.
None of the kids.
The thing that drove me crazy, though, was when he's asking the kids, are your parents here? And a couple of them are like, yeah, but they don't live here.
Yeah, they don't live here.
What is that response? And you have like Frank and Leslie's kids, yeah, but they don't live here, but they're in the house. Like you could easily go get your parents if there's a cop standing there.
Yeah, everybody just acts like,
it's very weird.
There's not a cop in the living room.
But I love it because it was just like, I think it just sets the tone for just the ridiculousness and the craziness of the movie.
So I do like the part where Kevin is up talking to his parents in the bedroom while they're packing. And Kevin's just kind of a smart ass through this whole movie.
Total smart
Especially
ass.
to his mom. He's kind of mean to his mom.
He's complaining about not being able to watch the movie.
Right.
Because Uncle Frank won't let him.
Yeah. And they're going back and forth. And then towards the end, Kevin says to his mom, hang up the film and make me, why don't you? And I was like, oh my God, if I ever said that to my mom, she would have hit me with a brush.
Oh, it gets worse than that. Hit you with a brush. Okay, so they're talking about packing and everything. And the one thing I know... Okay, first off, can I just say that the wallpaper in this house is insane?
I didn't even notice.
Did you notice?
No, I never noticed the wallpaper.
There is a different wallpaper in like every room.
Is there?
It's the most insane thing I've ever seen.
I didn't even notice.
But it was intentional because they wanted the whole house to be red and green. It had to be Christmas, right? Mm-hmm. So everything is red and green in this house. But there's like these ornate wallpapers, and it's just... Look at it next time you watch it. You're going to be like, what the heck?
I'll have to look around that.
So after all the insanity, I think it was before, yeah, so everything's going insane, right? And the funniest part to me is Kevin gets so frustrated that he just starts stomping his feet. When I get married, I'm living alone. And it's just so funny to me.
Is that after he talks to the
It's
kids?
such a childlike thing he says. Who?
Is that after Kevin, they start introducing all the kids and everybody talks because Kevin has to go pack?
Yeah. Pack my suitcase?
So while that was, when they start going through all the kids, you just realize how every kid is an asshole in this house. It's not just Kevin.
Yeah.
They're all mean to Kevin. They're all kind of like stuck up.
I think they're all, even the aunt, or the uncle and the cousins are very mean to him.
Yeah, everybody's mean.
So we get introduced to his siblings. Buzz, who's essentially your twin. Jeff, Megan, and Lenny are his siblings, so there's 5 of them. And then you've got Frank and Leslie are there with their kids as well, because they're all going to travel together
and they're
to France.
The older grandparents or something, right? Or uncle
and aunt. Yeah. And they have Fuller. Their son is Fuller with the glasses, who's actually Macaulay Culkin's brother in the movie.
Yeah, I was gonna
actually his real brother.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up because no, it's okay. But we'll talk about that when we get to Fuller in a little bit. But when he's talking to Kevin, Kevin has a great line where Buzz has a great line to Kevin because Kevin doesn't want to sleep in the bed with Fuller. Yeah. Because Fuller pees the bed apparently, and he's afraid Fuller's just gonna get up and piss on him in the middle of the night. That's Kevin's like nightmare. And Buzz says, "I wouldn't let you sleep in my room if you were growing on my ass." It's just such an insane thing to say to your little brother.
He calls him a phlegmwad.
Does he?
But this is where, after that, is where you get introduced to Old Man Marley, essentially, through Buzz.
Oh, okay, yeah. So my note about this was, up until this point, if you've never seen Home Alone, I've never heard about it, you have no idea what this movie's going to be. Because so far it's set up as like kind of like a crazy comedy about this family in this house. They introduce you to the cops. You're like, okay, is this going to be like a cop movie? A cop going to save the day at the end or something? And then they introduce the Shovel Slayer.
Shovel Slayer, yep.
Which is the old man across the street, the neighbor. And then it turns into almost like this serial killer movie.
Yeah.
So you've got like 3 movies happening at once. If you've never seen this, you have no idea what it's going to be because you have so many things happening at one time.
Well, the funniest part to me about that, so you've got the cousin in the room with Buzz, who's clearly older, mid to probably mid-teens, I would say. And Buzz is telling this insane story about how this guy murdered his whole family and half the people on the block and puts them in the trash can full of salt, turns them into mummies. Now, Kevin's genuinely scared, but the fact that this like teenager believes the story is just funny to me.
It reminds me of the Sandlot stories.
Yes.
But they're so much younger.
Yeah. I mean, this guy's got to be, 17 maybe? I mean, we don't know how old they are, but...
So the camera ends up back downstairs and you see the 2 kids staring up at the cop.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, are your parents home? Or something like that. And I don't know why these 2 kids are just like dumbfounded.
They do nothing.
They're staring at this cop up at them. They're so tiny. I think it's Fuller and the girl.
Fuller and Brooke, yeah.
Yeah, and they're just staring at him. That seems so funny to me. Because these kids are just like almost starstruck by this cop sitting in the
or terrified.
Yeah, or terrified, probably. But then finally someone pays attention to the cop and the dad comes down and...
Well, the pizza guy comes first because remember Frank yells down. I think that was like the call, like, pizza's here, and then everybody just kind of shows up. Yeah. But the funniest thing with the pizza guy is he hits that dang statue,
the bronze one,
every time.
Yeah.
I think was he in the house twice, but that statue gets hit by every car that's in that. I guess I don't know if it's.
I think the only people that don't hit it are the robbers. I don't think they hit the statue the whole time.
But the police officer hits it. Everybody hits it. Yeah, and then it's ridiculous.
The guys in the morning, the airport people.
Yeah.
Hit it in the morning. But then you see Buzz eating pizza. And Buzz is
it's so gross.
Buzz is the grossest pizza eater I've ever seen in my life. He's staring off at a distance and then just folds the pizza into his mouth as he's eating it.
Oh, it's so gross.
It's so gross. And then Kevin gets pissed. He's like, "Where's my cheese pizza?" And obviously, nobody cares about Kevin.
I know. He's just kind of like an afterthought in that house. Mean to him. They're really mean to him.
Yeah. So,
but yes, he's a smartass. But can you wonder why? I mean, everybody's nasty to him.
Yeah.
And he's a lot younger than everybody else. Like his siblings.
Almost the youngest, I think.
Yeah, he is the youngest of his siblings.
Yeah.
Of course. They're a lot older than him, it looks like. Because he's only 9. at the time.
Yeah, and we get a pretty funny scene, and this is where I first noticed Fuller.
Fuller's so cute.
Somebody says Fuller loves Pepsi, and they pan over to him, and he's just drinking
Fuller,
and smiling.
go easy on the Pepsi.
Yeah, go easy on the Pepsi. And I saw that kid smile, and I'm like, man, that looks just like Macaulay Culkin. And then I looked it up. I'm like, oh, it's his real life brother.
Yeah.
Who played Fuller in the movie. And I was like, man, they look just alike. And it turns out it's actually his brother. But yeah, I like Fuller a lot.
Kieran Culkin, I think it is. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so then Kevin gets pissed.
To be fair, Buzz started it.
Yeah, I mean, he ate all the cheese
because he teased him about it. Like, oh, we're going to have to throw it back
and
up or
whatever. And then he starts pretending to throw up, yeah.
And, I mean, I would be, as a 9-year-old, I would throw a hissy fit probably,
too. Yeah, if there's no other pizza you like.
Yeah. I mean, his parents obviously know that he doesn't like other pizza, and they just did not care.
Yeah, and then this is the scene where you feel pretty bad for Kevin, because Kevin attacks Buzz and then ends up knocking over the milk.
And the soda, everything gets knocked over.
Everything gets knocked over. And as they're cleaning up, which I never noticed before, they end up throwing away Kevin's airport ticket.
So you never noticed it until this time you watched it?
Yeah, I noticed it while I was watching without ever like looking up anything. I was just like, oh wait, is that I thought it was his passport at first. I was like, oh, they threw Kevin's passport in the trash, and then I looked it up and it ended up being his airplane ticket, which is how he ends up getting left behind later.
Well, the funny thing to me is I, as you know, have seen this movie
1,000 times.
It's a ridiculous amount of times. Until a couple of years ago, probably within the last 10 years, but I mean, after having seen it a million times, I never realized they threw it away.
It's very quick.
Yeah. But I remember the night I caught it and I was like, oh my God, I never, they threw his ticket away.
Because you're like, how do they leave this kid behind? Well, but then you kind of realize, oh, they threw his ticket away.
Yeah, because I guess if they would have had the ticket in hand and she'd be like, you're missing someone, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But he gets in trouble, and then Uncle Frank.
Oh, look what you did, you little jerk. He's so
such
mean.
A douche.
And everyone's just staring at Kevin like he's the worst person.
Like, if I'm the mom, if I'm Kevin's mom, I'm going to say something to Uncle Frank. Like, why are you talking to him like that?
Yeah, why is, like, I can kind of understand the dad not doing anything, because dads in movies are usually, like, pretty masculine. Like, suck it up, kid. But then, like, the mom's always the one usually backing up the kid. Like, she didn't do anything. And
they all just looked at him with such, like, disdain.
Yeah.
Like, they just couldn't stand this little kid.
Yep. Yeah, it always... Seeing that scene again, because I haven't seen Home Alone from the beginning to the end in years. I've always seen little bits of it. But yeah, seeing that part, I was like, oh...
Poor Kevin.
I started feeling pretty bad for Kevin at this point, because it's just been all about how nobody likes him in this house, which is a crazy start to a Christmas movie.
But you kind of... you kind of can get a sense of the way he's treated in the way he reacts to things, because he's really mean to his mom.
Yeah, oh yeah,
when
his mom
she
gets the brunt
punishes
of
him.
everything.
I mean, he was, I hate this family. Yep. I never want to see any of you guys again. Mm-hmm. And for a mom, that's like a stake in the heart. As soon as she heard that,
that's why she was like, say that again.
Yeah, she looked sad.
Yeah, because she does care, even though up until this point they don't always show how much she cares about him. But then she says, say goodnight, Kevin. He goes, good night, Kevin.
I love that.
Yeah. So he does have some really good lines. But
he's very funny.
Unfortunately, they're all towards his mom. His
mom
takes the brunt of everything.
Yeah.
He does have some good lines. But at this part, I kind of realized that he wasn't that good of an actor in this movie. And I only say that.
Bite your tongue right now.
If you watch it again, I always say that because his facial expression never changes through the first 30 minutes of this movie. He's always the same face on, the same tone. So I don't know if he was meant to be like that.
If looks could kill, Macaulay Culkin is a national treasure.
No, I like him, but I'm just saying, in this movie, it was weird. It felt like he didn't know how to act because he never changes anything. He's the same throughout he's almost the same throughout the entire movie, except for a couple scenes later on where he's happy. Or I
think Macaulay Culkin is great.
No,
in this movie. I think he played the part very well.
I like him, but he's very monotone in the beginning of this movie. It's almost like he has no up and down.
We're going to agree to disagree on this one.
I'm just saying.
He's a kid. He's 9.
He doesn't go up or down. He's very... Yeah, your kid at 9 was super hyper or...
He throws his little temper tantrums.
Yeah, but it's not even that bad because it's just like...
He's very...
He's monotone the whole time.
I don't know if monotone's the right word. I think he was a little old for his actual age.
Oh, so he's trying to play like a little kid?
Yeah, maybe maybe like his personality, because I think he was very professional from what people on the movie set said. He was very professional.
He could be in real life at that time, he could have been a very like
a mature, not 10. I think he was 10 when he
mature
did the movie.
10-year-old. So they tried to, I can see that. That's probably more of what it was like.
Yeah.
More than him not being a good actor. Because I do like him in this movie, but he's very like stone.
I love him.
Like stone face throughout the whole beginning of the movie.
So she sends him up to the 3rd floor. And I think that sets the tone of he can be easily forgotten because now he's not with Fuller up there. He's by himself.
Oh, right. Because... Well, no, wasn't Fuller supposed to sleep in the attic or something with him? Isn't that the bed he
but
shared?
she said I'll send him somewhere else because he didn't want to get peed on.
I didn't hear that. Okay. I was wondering why Fuller didn't wake him up in the morning, but that would be...
So
makes sense.
he's kind of alone, on his own up there.
Right.
There's nobody else up there. So as they're, they wake up late the next day because they had a storm.
Did you notice the dad getting out of bed?
No.
They're like, what do they say?
Peter!
First she goes, Peter! And they both get out of bed. But the dad... I remember what he said. The dad is like... His eyes are closed, and he goes like this. He goes, "We slept in." And he like does a finger gun or something, and like points at her, but he like doesn't open his eye. Yeah,
that.
I happened to look over at him during that scene. He looks so funny when he's like, "We slept in."
So they are just chaotic.
Yeah,
like running around this house, and you cannot tell me that they all got out of that house.
No.
Was there four? No, there's.
They said 45 minutes. Our flight leaves in 45 minutes.
Yeah, there's no way. And going through O'Hare Airport, if you've never been there,
I know. I was gonna talk
know
about
what
that.
O'Hare's like.
Yeah. That random neighbor kid ends up in the van. Talking to the van driver. He just randomly comes over and is like, "Oh, hey," talking.
He's very. I actually referenced him in our Jurassic Park podcast because remember how we were talking about how Timmy. He reminded me of Mitch Murphy, the neighbor kid.
I didn't even know that's who you were talking about.
Yeah.
Wow, that's funny.
And he just like
everything goes back to Jurassic Park now.
I know. He just is incessantly asking questions. He's so annoying.
And the driver's just like, "Leave me alone, kid."
I know. But real quick before that, though, we realized that they had a storm the night before, which knocked the power out.
Yeah, this is another scene where it's like, if you've never seen this movie and know nothing about it, you're like, okay, now is this a magical Christmas movie? Because like the wind blowing.
Yeah.
And it kind of seems like, and what Kevin was talking about, I hope my family leaves. And then it's like, you get the wind blowing and it almost seems like it's turning into a movie where like...
Oh, you could almost see where it's like one of those like big where something weird happens. Like,
and the whole family like disappears and now he's home alone. So like it's... You've got 4 different options for a movie because you still have no idea what's happening.
Yeah. Or
what the whole concept of the movie is going to be up until now. And I was thinking about that a lot because I haven't seen this movie in so long all the way through. And I'm like, man, this is 4 different movies. And if you've never seen this, I would have no idea where this is going to go. Which kind of ties into my annoyance about the movie later on. But we'll talk about that later.
It really kind of hurts my soul a little bit that you don't watch this movie enough.
Yeah.
Like every Christmas. 35 times a season. We watch this movie all year long.
I will tell you right now, I've watched Home Alone 3 more than I've watched Home Alone. I like Home Alone 3 a lot. I grew up on Home Alone 3.
Matthew, it's not even Macaulay Culkin.
I know. I think that's why I like it. I like Macaulay Culkin.
Macaulay Culkin.
Sorry, I like Macaulay Culkin.
You don't like him enough to learn his name?
I like him, but that's a different conversation.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, so the random neighbor kid ends up getting counted as Kevin because he's in the van going through their stuff, by the way.
I know, he's in their bag taking pictures with their
he's
camera.
Like, oh, look, a camera.
Who are you? Why are you rooting through your stuff? And they're obviously not that close of friends. I'm sorry. All right, so he, like you said, he gets counted as Kevin, right? So Heather, I think is the cousin who counts, doesn't even realize she's miscounted.
Yeah, because the neighbor kid's facing in the van. Yeah. So she just grabs his head and
he doesn't say anything like, "Oh, what'd you hit me for?" or anything like that. But so they get in the vans and my favorite, I don't know why I love this part. The mom turns to her and says, "Did you get everybody?" And this is one of my favorite lines in the movie. I have no idea why. She goes, 11, including me, 5 boys, 6 girls, 4 parents, 2 drivers, and a partridge in a pear tree. I have no idea why, but I love that line so much.
It's a pretty good line.
And I say it all the time. It's just completely ridiculous.
It's just another example of the mom just getting like, shit on through this whole movie by everybody.
But they do find out when they're getting ready to pull away, the guy comes over and tells them the phone lines are down.
Right. There's a little scene to help you, or to help make it more believable. Yeah. Later on.
Of how they couldn't get in touch with this kid.
That crazy magical storm that they had the night before. It was really windy. As soon as I saw them in the airport and they're at the gate, I'm like, okay, there's no way you're getting 13 people.
Yeah, however many
to the airport through security.
11,
and to your gate at O'Hare
Well,
when you left the house with 45 minutes.
They
had to have been 5 minutes away from the airport.
You have to consider too, though, that this is
on Christmas weekend.
Right. It was a lot looser back then, though.
Right.
I know it's still it's not realistic.
Takes place in the 90s, right?
Yeah, 1990. So you have to think like it was so like if you think about this, she runs to the gate and she's like, "All right, take whatever's free." Like doesn't even like look at their tickets and she like, counts them, but she never looks.
Right.
It was very like willy nilly how they.
Yeah, I guess it makes sense that it's more possible back in the 90s than today.
Yeah.
But 45 minutes is just like a little too close to.
In the real world, that's not happening. I don't care what year it was.
Yeah.
Especially in Chicago.
I do like the part a lot where Uncle Frank is on the airplane and he's sitting next to his wife and he's like, "Is this real crystal?
Put it in your purse.
Put it in your purse." And she's like, no, put it in your purse. And then the girl comes over and was like, "Wine?" And he's like, "Yeah, wine." And then he's like, "Fill it up. You realize
it's free, right?
Yeah.
He's such a douche.
And then you realize Uncle Frank is an alcoholic and a thief. And you're like, okay, good. I'm glad my assumptions about Uncle Frank are true because this guy's an asshole.
He's just a douche.
Yeah, he's just there to be an asshole in this movie. Kevin ends up figuring out he's alone in the house. You know, which at first he's kind of like worried, and then he's like, oh.
Then he's like, oh, I did make them disappear.
He's
like he thought it like.
he thought the magic happened.
But before that he goes out and he's like, wait, they didn't. This is how he realizes that the cars are still in the garage. The garage is open, and he's like. Then I think he comes to the realization that as a little kid, you know, would think I made them disappear by my words.
Yeah. So I like the part where we get introduced to this like evil heating system in the basement, which is just like looks like a log.
It's just
like
a
log furnace. Yeah.
I don't think furnaces are log furnaces.
Is that not logs inside of it? Because it opens a grate. What do you put in the grate? Inside the opening? I think it's logs.
So they have to like constantly put logs in the fireplace.
I don't know if that's
in the furnace. I don't know
if that's the whole heating system for the house, but it looks like it's like almost like a fireplace for the basement.
No, it's their furnace.
But what would you put in it? Wood, right? You cannot put coal in there.
I don't think so I don't know.
I'm pretty sure they just
my
throw
gut
wood
instinct
in there.
was coal. But
I don't think they had coal heaters in basement, unless I'm stupid.
I don't think they had. I don't think
it looks like it's just a fireplace in the basement. Because it's a grate that opens, so you have to throw something in there. It's not to clean it, I don't think.
Can I look this up?
Yeah, you can look it up, because now we both sound stupid.
We do.
What the hell is that in the basement? I thought it was just like a log heater.
I just feel like a log heater is like so annoying.
I feel like a coal heater is toxic.
Okay, so it resembles an old-style coal-fired gravity furnace.
Okay, so they did have coal furnaces back then.
I don't know if it was actually like...
So it's a coal furnace. I didn't know they had those in basements.
I just feel like, are you really in 1990 still putting coal in your furnace? Still a thing?
Looks like wood, right?
I honestly think it's just a regular furnace. It just...
Oh, there's nothing in it. It's just
there's nothing in it. So we don't talk about that.
No, I mean, it's funny that we both thought it was coal and a wood furnace.
I said it looked like coal. Mr. Wood Furnace, like they're throwing logs on.
Okay, so we just found out it's just a normal furnace. You don't throw anything in there.
Yeah.
But the grate opened, like it looked like you could just throw stuff in there, and I thought it was wood.
Yeah, I was just curious how you thought people would just continuously have wood to heat that giant ass house that they have.
As a wise man once said, I'm not a smart man. So...
Who said that?
Forrest Gump.
I hate Forrest Gump.
Oh my god, we've got some hot takes on this podcast. Okay, so we figured out it's just a normal furnace, but anyway,
but him being afraid of the furnace is funny to me.
Yeah, the funny part about that is that it starts talking to him in his head. He thinks the noises are it whispering to him.
Yeah, it was actually supposed to be a dream sequence in the movie, but they incorporated it in.
I think I like it better as almost seeing it as a real scene, not something in his head.
I do too.
Or not a dream.
Because it's such a kid-like thing to like look at something and be scared of that and just assume it's... Because I guess it can be scary. Basements are scary.
Yeah, basements are scary. Nobody likes going into their basement to do laundry if you don't have a finished basement with like nice finishes and stuff. So
speaking of features in the house, I always thought it was so cool they had a laundry chute. I
do like the laundry chute, yeah.
The laundry chute is cool.
Because you see him shooting the figurines with Buzz's gun.
Yeah, he's a perfect shot.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Kevin ends up getting the gun from Buzz's room because he starts ransacking Buzz's room because he's never been able to do this before.
Yeah.
Because he thinks his whole family's disappeared. So he's like, well, I might as well go through Buzz's stuff. And then he picks up the Playboy magazine. And they don't want 10-year-old Macaulay to obviously see that. So they taped the pictures together so he never actually saw any nude models or anything.
No clothes on anybody.
Yeah, throws it away. And then he finds a picture of Buzz's girlfriend. And he goes, Buzz's girlfriend? Woof. And then the funny thing is, it turns out that is the art director's son. Yeah. It's not even a girl. Yep. Which at first you look at it and you're like that's a weird looking woman. And then
I never thought about it.
I was like, she's kind of weird looking. And then it turns out it's a son with a wig on.
Yeah.
And they did that because Columbus thought using a real girl's picture would be too mean.
Yeah, just to have her be the ugly girl in the movie.
So they made the art director's son be the girl in the picture.
But you're seeing Kevin get really excited, jumping around the house.
He's doing everything he's wanted to do when his parents aren't there. All of the ice cream
and the candy, and he's very excited for a minute.
Yeah, and then so Kevin ends up putting on a movie called Angels with Filthy Souls, which I thought, I mean, ever since I've seen Home Alone way back in the day, I thought it was a real movie that got made, but it ended up being a movie that they made for the movie.
Yeah.
So they shot that apparently in a day and then used it as a really important
it's kind of a pivotal part of the movie.
Yeah. I feel like everybody knows that line, keep the change, you filthy animal. I've heard that so much throughout my life. Or I'm going to give you to the count of 10.
Oh, yeah.
And he goes 1, 2, 10. I feel like both those things I've heard so much throughout my life. And I always thought it was from a real movie, but turns out it's just a really quick little segment they did for Kevin to watch something.
I remember reading something about the guy in the movie, that did the whole keep the change, you filthy animal, had no idea that he was going to be recognizable after doing this, and had no idea that it would be like this huge success and started to get recognized in different places. And he was just like, I don't like this.
Yeah, because he probably thought he was going to have this really tiny little part. I guess it kind of sticks with the theme of the movie getting immensely popular, and nobody thought it would. Yeah. Same thing with that guy. He probably thought he was going to be a small part of the movie, and he ends up getting recognized everywhere. I like the scene where Kevin ends up sledding down the steps on a real sled out the door, which is so crazy to me because I'm pretty sure you've done this. We've all sled down the steps on blankets when we were kids.
Even more than that, there was no way that sled is not crashing into a dang wall.
Yeah, because you have to turn to go out to the house.
That drives us crazy at home all the time.
And then they show the scene where Kevin, he has it at the top, but he angles it a little bit to get it to go out the door. Going into the
railing, the wall. You're never going out that door.
That would hurt so much going down those steps to one sled and hitting that wall.
But after he watches the movie is when I guess he got, he called for his mom, and that's when you see her kind of wake up on the plane.
Yeah, she gets the Kevin.
I guess that mother's intuition that she apparently didn't have in the morning, and realizes that she left him at home by himself.
And everybody kind of starts worrying and stuff, and then Uncle Frank's like, I left my reading glasses at the house. They all just look at Uncle Frank.
He is such a jerk.
Yeah, he just does not care.
She literally says she's so upset. What kind of mother am I? And he's just like, well, if it makes you feel any better, I forgot my reading glasses. Like, really? That doesn't make anybody feel better, Frank. Even Leslie looks at him like, who are you? Why are you here?
So next we find out who the cop actually was. Harry and Marv end up being the robbers for the movie. And now you kind of get a sense of what the movie's going to be. You're like, okay, this kid thinks his family's disappeared.
Yeah, now we know he's home alone.
And now we know the cop wasn't real. And you start figuring out, okay, so it's about these two guys robbing the house. So I think this is the first time where if you've never seen this movie, you realize, okay, it's not a serial killer movie. It still could be, because you could have the shovel slayer come over and kill the robbers or something. Or, and the magical fantasy part's gone because you figured out, it's not anything like that. So now you're kind of getting a better sense of what this movie's going to be about. But they've cased the house, and then they're talking in the van. And Harry says, "Yep, there it is. That's the silver tuna." And then how Marv goes, "That's very G."
Crowbars up.
Crowbars up. So
they proceed to they're gonna, I guess, rob the house.
Yeah,
right?
I think they're about to rob the house for the first time.
So they back into the driveway. Harry's back into the driveway. And I thought about this today. I'm like, okay, you're pulling into this driveway. The garage is open and the cars are still there. You're not a little suspicious that they haven't left yet, because 90% of the time people are going to close their garage when they go away, especially to another country.
And they just...
So he never like thought about that. So this is when Kevin really realizes that something's going on, because they get out of the car. They shut the car doors, and Kevin kind of wakes up and he sees them, the shadow of them walking outside the windows of his house. And I thought it was so funny, not funny, but like this kid realizes there's people outside of his house, and he has the wherewithal to get up and go around and turn all the lights on to scare them off. Right? I mean, he's 9. Like, I would have never thought, I just would have hid somewhere.
Right. Yeah, he's pretty smart. He's like one of the smartest 9-year-olds ever.
Yeah.
You know, when you look at what he does later on in the movie. There's a scene where the family gets to the airport in France. And, they're all trying to contact home. The phone lines are down. And they end up going up to the, what are those phones? Just like a...
Payphone?
Yeah, they end up going up to the payphone. And that French woman is like... and they're like, give me the phone, woman. They just yank the phone off the woman in the middle of her conversation. And then...
Oh, she'll have to call you back.
Yeah. So I did like that scene. And then...
But okay, so explain to me. Now... She puts one coin in that phone, and she somehow calls the United States from France with one coin in a payphone, which I always thought was funny. I don't know why that always stuck out to me.
So now Kevin has this awakening. He's like, I'm the man of the house. He's like, I'm not afraid anymore.
Right.
And he goes outside screaming, I'm not afraid anymore. I'm not afraid anymore. The old man neighbor Shovel Slayer walks up to him on his sidewalk, and he looks up at him and he goes, ah! He just runs back into the house.
I was watching, I'm like, he has to be embracing this, because he does not acknowledge, like, he's just not normal. He
it's not a
thrives
normal
on being
man.
creepy. Like, what are you doing? You're like walking up, dragging this freaking garbage can and holding the shovel up as if you're going to hit this kid.
Yeah.
Like, you have no concept at all that this child is terrified of you. Say hello.
Yeah, he's definitely he definitely knows that everybody thinks he's a killer. So I think he's, like you said, enjoying.
I don't know if he's enjoying it as much as he's just like
accepting it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he does address it later in the movie.
Yeah.
I just thought, like, there's so many times in there I'm like, you had an opportunity to not scare the crap out of this kid, and you just kept doing it.
It's one of those movie things where you're like, a normal person would have just said hi.
Yeah, or you don't have to run. It's fine.
Yeah.
You know, anything.
But for the movie, they made him...
he's just like, I'm going to be all kinds of creepy.
Yeah, for the movie, they definitely made it so
he's always dragging that damn trash can.
We've got a lot of bodies in there.
Like 30.
The family ends up getting in contact with the police in, I guess, the township or whatever that they're in. And these are like two of the laziest cops. I don't think the one guy's not a cop. He's a family crisis center.
Sergeant Balzac.
Yeah. Is that his name? It's Balzac? I didn't even know that. But then, they're going back and forth on their phone. And like, oh, hey, they got a worried mother over here. Here you go. Line 2. And then he starts eating a donut while he's talking to her. And then the donut piece drops onto the bottom
you caught
of
that
the
too?
phone. I don't know why, but it's so gross to me that it just falls.
Leaves it there as he's talking.
There's no way that was planned. That was definitely just happened.
100%.
And they really just used that cut for it. But...
Hyper on 2.
And then it goes back to...
Oh, hi, ma'am. It's you again.
I like how he just goes through the lines that he's supposed to.
I know.
Is your child in danger? Has your
She's like,
child
"No."
experienced any trauma? He just goes through the lines on a paper. He just throws it back to the cop and like, oh yeah, we'll go send somebody.
Yeah. And then they send somebody.
And I have a note here about that scene because I've definitely been in situations where back in our house, if I was home alone and somebody was knocking on the door, 9 times out of 10 I wouldn't answer it.
Yeah. But this is a cop checking on a child.
Yeah, but I understand where Kevin's coming from in that scene where he doesn't.
No, I totally get Kevin. I don't get the cop because
he never says police or anything.
But then he calls. He's like, "There's nobody here. The house looks secure. Like, count your kids again." Like, you would never leave a child, assuming like this child is in this house, and you're not even going to do a welfare check. Like,
if
you
the family
are
says
not a great cop.
If the family says our child is home alone, you assume that their family's right.
They'd find a way to get in there.
Yeah.
To check on this kid. Something could have happened.
Yeah, I did find it a little weird. The cop was like,
Tell them to
whatever.
count their kids again.
Typical, where do they live? Chicago?
Yeah.
Typical Chicago cop in the 90s, apparently.
I don't think that's true.
Every cop in the 90s apparently just didn't care about missing
Movie
kids
cops,
or
anyway.
anything. So now we get the scene where probably one of the most famous scenes, probably in Home Alone, I would say, where he ends up cleaning, or he ends up showering, and then what does he spray in his armpits?
Deodorant.
That's deodorant? Okay. And then he puts on the aftershave.
Yeah.
Which I've never used aftershave. I don't know. Is it supposed to? I mean, sure, for little kids it might burn.
I actually asked Scott because it's like, does it actually burn like that?
Yeah.
But he didn't shave, so he didn't have like. So I don't know if it would
I've
burn
never used aftershave, so I
the
don't
way he did it.
Yeah.
But I mean, he was perfect. That scene was perfect.
And
I love the
apparently
way
he wasn't supposed to put his hands
he wasn't
on
supposed to
his
keep him
face
there.
and keep him there.
Yeah.
But he ended up keeping him there while he screamed, and ended up being the scene because
Which was
everybody
perfect.
loved it so much. Which ended up being the poster or the cover for the movie.
Yeah.
I think is him holding his face screaming. So.
But before that he climbs Buzz's shelves.
Oh, that's when he climbs the shelves.
And he gets Buzz's life savings, which is like 3 crumpled dollar bills and like
Buzz's life savings.
3 coins.
Yeah.
Like, all right. Buzz didn't save very well, I guess. But then you see when the shelves all collapse on him, which he was not getting up and just shaking that off, but you see the tarantula escapes.
Right.
The aquarium. What was that? Is that an aquarium?
Just like a case.
Whatever. It escapes, and that kind of foreshadows a couple things that are going to happen later in the movie.
Kevin ends up at the store, and then he sees the old man again, and the old man again. It pops whatever was on the counter. He's got a bloody hand. He walks so
slowly.
Yeah, and
like
they play
behind him,
and they play that music, like that evil person music.
Yeah, and he puts his blood-soaked bandaged hand and just like slams it down on the counter. Like, why would you do that?
And did you notice the clerks didn't do anything? Like, didn't even acknowledge that the old guy was.
Yeah, I think at this point he's just torturing the child.
Yeah, and he's like,
it's like emotional torture.
And then Kevin's like, "Is this toothbrush FDA approved or whatever? The Dental Association approved?" It was so dumb.
I love it.
But yeah, and then old man ends up scaring him again.
He's just mean.
And you're just like, just say something, man.
I know. And then poor Kevin like ends up being a shoplifter because he's so scared. He's just
scared
gonna
of
run out of
everything.
the store.
I hate the ice skating scene so much.
I mean, it's unrealistic, but it's cute.
She's like, whoa. It's like so bad. And he's like, he says whoa like 4 times, and every time he's
hurting my soul.
Every time he says it gets less believable because he's like, whoa. It's like, okay, we get it. You're sliding across the ice.
I was watching the Movies That Made Us episode this morning, and they said he loved that scene so much,
bet.
and he was so like he was genuinely happy doing that scene, and you see it in a different way when you think of it that way, but
I get
you apparently don't.
Yeah, just because like I just hate the way he says whoa because it doesn't sound very believable. But I'm just a Macaulay hater at this point, I think.
Apparently.
Marv and Harry are at the neighbor's house, and is where Marv talks about having a calling card as because they're I think he said all the good robbers have calling cards or something. And so Marv has the idea to have the dumbest calling card ever, and I put in my note, I said, having somebody leave your water on is more annoying than just robbing the house. Yeah. I'd rather you just rob my house than leave the water on.
Well, the funny thing is Harry hates it too.
Yeah,
Harry's like, you did it again?
He said, that's going to be our calling call. We just leave the water on. Which comes up later in the movie, which is so funny. But, yeah, like, just rob me. Don't leave my water on.
I know. Now you've just destroyed the house.
Who knows how long I'm going to be gone. I got to get a whole new basement because you flooded it. Because your calling card is leaving the water. Yeah. Like, just leave it dripping. Why do you have to have it fully blasting? It's so annoying to me.
So the robbers pull up to the house, and Kevin has it set up like this whole party's going on.
Yeah,
all the lights in the house are on. Yeah, you got Michael Jordan on a train.
Yeah. I said the fake people set up around the house is insane, and Kevin is a gifted engineer.
A gifted engineer, I love that.
Yeah, everything that he makes in this house is like very engineer brain thinking.
Yeah.
And Kevin's just a little genius.
So because I remember when this came out, so Macaulay Culkin kind of revised his role as Kevin in a 2018 commercial for Google. Yeah, I heard about that. Have you not seen it?
I don't think so.
Okay, watch it because it's great.
Okay.
But he has so it's all like, kind of like, hey Google this, hey Google turn the lights on. But in the new scene, like the party scene, he's got Kevin Durant instead of Michael Jordan, and he's on a Roomba vacuum.
So when they check in with the family again, most of them are back at the house other than the mom, and there's Buzz and I think
In France, they're at the house in France.
Yeah. And I think Buzz is talking to the cousin, the older one that counted or something, one of the women.
No, I think he's talking to Megan, this is his sister.
His sister, yeah. And Buzz goes, 3 things. He goes, A. Says
of why he's not scared.
Of why he's not scared. Yeah. He goes, A. And then he goes, 2. And then he goes, D. So Buzz is an idiot. Obviously. And he's a jerk.
The funny thing is, so this is totally off topic, but the guy who plays Buzz is also in Dennis the Menace. And he's also a real idiot in Dennis the Menace. Because he's trying to read to him in the tub. And he can't read the words in the children's book. Oh, that poor guy just got stuck with the idiot character. Typecasted as like a moron, I guess. He's actually in, I think Disney is doing a show. A Home Alone show. And he's in it. Or he's in one of the other, like, later movies. It would be cool to see him because he's not a bad character. I think he plays a good character for what his role is. Sure. Agree to disagree. So no, he does a good job. So the pizza guy ends up coming back to the house because Kevin orders a pizza. A plain cheese pizza. Plain cheese pizza. Me. And this is where we get to see Kevin's sick VCR skills. Because he's so good at playing, pausing, and then fast forwarding to the perfect spot. The perfect spot. Yeah. So the pizza boy is communicating basically with the movie, the Angels with Filthy Souls movie. And anybody who's ever used a VCR before knows that shit is not easy to do. Oh, hell no. It always like skips a little bit or it takes a second for it to play once you hit play or jumps around a little bit. It never works like that. But Kevin does it perfectly and he ends up fooling the pizza guy into thinking, there's like he's getting shot at. And he ends up just, Kevin gives him $20. $12. Oh, sorry. He gives him $12 because it's $11.80. Yeah. And he goes, keep the change, you filthy animal. And it's a 20 cents tip. But okay, you mean to tell me that this pizza guy thinks that the TV's loud enough that this is really happening, and then you're being shot at with whatever Tommy gun machine, whatever it is, and you're not calling the cops? You're just like, all right, I'm just gonna go back to my work. I didn't think about that he never called the cops. Never called the cops or anything. But you know what I realized here in this scene, which I just realized, the phones are on now. Yeah. And it's just crazy later in the movie what happens when the phones are now working for days. Yeah. But anyway. So then the mom ends up trying to get on a plane to France. Or sorry, ends up trying to get on a plane back to America. And she's like offering everything she has to this woman. She says, here's my wedding ring. I'm like, I don't know how the husband would feel if you gave up your wedding ring and 3 other things. Yo, you do that if it's your kid. I guess. You give up anything. I guess you're right. But man, that woman was going to take everything from her. She had no shame. She's like, all right, I'll take your everything. And I don't know what happened. I don't know if she gave that stuff to her because they ended up letting her on the plane. Yeah, I don't know. You only really see them exchange tickets, I guess. Yeah. Another thing that you could never do today. Yeah, and I'm thinking she doesn't give up the wedding ring because the husband never mentioned anything. But I never thought to look at her hand again after that. You can start talking about the grocery scene. Okay. And you can preface it by saying I went highly in depth into the scene to get everybody prepared. So, okay, the grocery scene when Kevin goes shopping is one of my favorite scenes in the movie. First of all, I love the interaction he has with the cashier. Yeah, that's pretty good. She's really funny. But I've always wondered... Do you think I would be here alone? Lady. Ma'am, I'm 9 years old. I don't think he says lady, he says ma'am, yeah. But he plays that so well. Like, he just came back at her. And he really talks about the paper. I saw that. I got that coupon out of the paper this morning. He just pretended like he's some... Man, yeah, like this is like that's for the kids all the time. He said the army men's for the kids. He's 9 years old. So he buys laundry detergent, toilet paper, Tropicana orange juice, Kraft mac and cheese, Wonder Bread, Stouffer's dinner, fabric softener sheets, Saran wrap, a half a gallon of milk, and a pack of toy soldiers for $19.83. And how much would that be today? Apparently, I looked it up. About $63. Oh my god, which is insane. But the funny part to me is it always drove me crazy because when he's walking home, he's got the 2 bags. And I'm sorry, some of that detergent and milk alone is heavy for a 9-year-old child who's, 3 feet. And who knows how far that store is from his house. I know. So he's walking and you can see in both bags, clearly there's like toilet paper rolls.
Yeah.
But when he drops them, it's a great cut because you don't catch it right away. He drops them. There's no toilet paper in the one bag.
I never caught that.
Almost everything that he bought was in fact in the bags that he dropped, but I actually thought it was much less. I was like pausing and writing things down. But the only thing he missed was the Wonder Bread, the detergent, the fabric softener. Everything else was there when he dropped his groceries. But I just think that scene is so funny because he's just walking all happy and then everything just falls and it's like...
And there's no way he got home.
Something else.
There's no way he got home.
I know, how, like, did you just carry it or, like, stuff in his hood or something? I have no idea how he got it home.
Yeah, there's no way he carried all that home.
But then he comes home and does laundry like it's nothing. But that's when he finally overcomes his fear of the furnace.
This is probably our favorite part.
Yeah.
We've said this because, for those of you who don't know, we're recording in a basement and we have a heater next to us. And we've been down here recording 3 episodes now, or 2 episodes. And every time the heater comes on, we're like, hello Kevin. Because we have this water here, and there's been a couple of times where we've just been going through our normal day, and I'm like, to Jen, I'm like, hello Kevin.
Because it sounds the same. The furnace sounds the same. But he finally overcomes his fear and just turns around and says, shut up. And I think that's funny because you're seeing him kind of progress as like...
Yeah.
He's almost like growing up overnight because now he's got to go to the store. He's got to do his own laundry. And then he's finally just like, I can't let this furnace scare me anymore.
This is when I started liking him as an actor more because he was playing more of an adult.
Yeah.
Now, which I think you brought it up earlier when he was an older kid trying to pretend to be a young kid.
I don't know that he was much older though because he's my age.
Yeah, but he was trying to...
I think he was just mature. I think he was very mature for his age.
He's trying to portray this young kid.
Yeah.
When he's already a mature kid in real life. So I think that's what bothered me about the first half of the movie. And now it's starting to be... Because he's actually like showing emotion now.
Yeah.
Which I like a lot more.
I made mention of the fact that Buzz's life savings was like 3 crumpled up dollars and some quarters. And somehow he managed to turn that into a $12 pizza and a $20 grocery order.
Because there's no money left for him. Nobody was supposed to be there. So the mom ends up in Scranton, PA at the airport. And there's no more flights. And this is where the polka king of the Midwest,
hold on,
John
Candy. Can we go back for a second?
Yeah. What's up?
So she's at the counter, kind of arguing with the guy, right? Trying to get on a flight. And I don't know if you knew this, because I just found this out the other day, actually. There's a conspiracy theory, I guess you could call it, that Elvis... Oh, Elvis is in the background. Did you hear about this? Elvis is alive?
I looked it up yesterday, and he happened to be in the background.
Somebody told me about this just randomly at work the other day, and I was like, what? I had never heard this. Yeah. And I looked, I'm like, that guy looks nothing like Elvis, first of all. I had to point that out, because before she meets the Polka King, he's supposedly standing there in a sport coat with a beard, like... I'm sorry, Elvis died. First of all, he died 13 years before the movie was made. Yeah. But people still, for some reason, believe Elvis is alive.
It's such a dumb theory, but there's so many dumb theories.
Yeah, it's just the weirdest thing to me. Like, he looks nothing like Elvis. Mm-hmm. So I had to bring that up because I just found that out for the first time, and I was like, I have to find out more about this.
So we get introduced to John Candy's character, which is Polka King of the Midwest.
Gus Polinski.
And I do like their whole story where they are the Kenosha Kickers.
I love it.
And he starts talking about how popular they are, but he starts telling her how popular they are, and it gets less and less popular.
Exactly.
As he's talking about it. Because at first they feel like it sounds like they're this great polka band, but then you realize as he's talking, they're actually not that popular.
He sold 635 copies.
He said we had big hits in Sheboygan. Is Sheboygan a real place?
Yeah.
Okay, Sheboygan is the funniest town name I've ever heard in my life. But I love that it just gets less and less popular the more he talks. But I did feel like that scene was so dragged out. But it's because it was improv-y from John Candy, because he didn't really have a lot of line, or I think
he improv'd everything. Yeah, he didn't come off script.
Yeah. Which it felt like it dragged out, which is the only thing I didn't like about that. I'm like, okay, I get it.
That's one of the greatest scenes in the movie.
Not in my eyes, man. I like John Candy, but I don't. That scene just dragged out. I'm like, okay, I get it. You guys aren't that popular, you know. And he like keeps pausing, and she's just like doesn't say anything. I'm like, hey,
I love it.
Let's get through it. Come on. It might have been because at this point I was just like ready to get over with the movie because I know everything else that happens. Because I've seen everything past this part. I've seen so much. I haven't really seen the beginning.
Yeah. As
much as the endings.
Well, the funny thing is, so John Candy did it as a favor. He was like a huge star at this point in time.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy who played the pizza boy actually made more than John Candy made for the movie.
Oh, really?
So the pizza guy, he was on set for 23 hours, that John Candy, just to do this. He was there one day to do the scene. And he made $414. The pizza boy made $500.
Sorry, how much did Pizza Boy make?
The pizza boy made $500.
Oh, wow.
So he got paid. And apparently he kind of was always a little snarky about it. The fact that he didn't get paid a lot for the movie. Because he really could have raked in a ton just for that, because he was just a big star.
He's so popular.
But he worked with John Hughes on Uncle Buck.
Okay.
Which is actually the inspiration for the story, because I think what I read was that John Hughes had never worked with a child that young before, because he was always with the Brat Pack and everything. And when he was watching, he's like, oh, I think this kid could lead a movie. And then he was getting ready to go to a trip to Europe and had these like kind of irrational fears about what happens if I leave my kid at home. That's kind of, and that's how he came about the movie. But that's why John Candy was in the movie. He kind of did it as a favor. I worked with him before. I just think it's funny because he made nothing to do that.
It does seem like a random cameo.
I love
He's such a.
But he plays a pivotal role.
Yeah, but
in the movie.
It's just funny because he's like a nothing character almost. Like the pizza guy is almost to his level of being a character in this movie. But it's because he jumps in at the end and saves her. But I like the fake Santa scene with Kevin going to that little store to ask Santa for his family back.
The cigarette smoking Santa.
Cigarette smoking. And I put in my notes, fake Santa wages must have been really low that year. Santa's got a beater of a car.
Doesn't even run.
He's like, but he is really nice to Kevin.
He is really nice to Kevin.
Which is cool. But then he gets in his car, it's all rusty. And he goes to turn it on and it sounds like shit. And then he gets like, I don't know, a foot down the road. It just breaks down after he just helped this poor kid.
And so there's a funny part with that with Kevin too, because he's asking for his whole family back, and he names his parents even by name.
And Santa probably thinks they're all dead.
I know. And at the end, he's like, and if he has time, Uncle Frank. So he like begrudgingly says, all right, I'll take him back.
To be fair, nobody would want Uncle Frank back.
But he gives him his Tic Tacs, right? So he's nice as kid. He doesn't have a kid. He doesn't have a candy cane for him. So he gives him Tic Tacs. I'm like, you just poured the last of the Tic Tacs into his hand. Why didn't you just give him the little container?
Right, yeah.
But Kevin was very grateful for it.
Yeah. So finally, we are, I don't know, an hour 10 into the movie at this point or something.
You're getting real technical. I have no idea.
Yeah.
And where Kevin goes to church.
Kevin ends up in a church, and this is where we have a really cool scene with Old Man Marley.
Yeah.
The neighbor, the shovel slayer.
So thing. He wasn't supposed to be a character in the movie.
Old Man Marley.
Originally.
This movie would have been much worse without him.
I know. Chris Columbus, the director, was like, we need some more sentimentality in the movie. And wanted kind of that family element of like missing the family and the importance of family to come back around at the end. And that's the role that Old Man Marley played. Because when they're in the church talking to each other, they're kind of discussing like their family issues. And they're giving advice. And Kevin's like, you're scared to talk to your son? Like, you're awfully old to be scared, you know? And they kind of help each other through that weird, by talking to each other, they kind of come to realize how important family is. Yeah. Especially at the holidays. And
this is where I started. I like from this point on in the movie, I think from the fake Santa part to the end of the movie, I like that half a lot more than the first half of the movie. I think it's because I like his character, the way he plays it a lot more in the second half. Yeah. And I just like everything that happens in the second half. The first half to me felt like it dragged a little bit. And then it got to this part where you start figuring out Old Man Marley's story and you get more of Marv and Harry. And this whole, the second half, I've loved so much more than the first, which is kind of crazy because the first half sets up who Kevin is and stuff. But
I don't even know who you are right now.
But anyway. I really love how Old Man Marley and Kevin are talking about Marley's family. Yeah. And how he doesn't talk to his brother anymore, and that's his granddaughter his singing and stuff like that. So I thought that was...
you kind of learn why he maybe is the way he's very much a loner, and you kind of find out why. So yeah, I like that. They kind of like talk through some things.
I did write that. Old Man Marley's been waiting to trauma dump on somebody for years, though, because he sees this neighbor kid. He's like, man, I've got so much shit going on you wouldn't believe. And he just starts trauma dumping on this 9-year-old
His
neighbor
9-year-old
kid,
child.
and he's hoping this kid like turns
But he
his
like
life
puts him in his
around.
place.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
Kevin's
he does.
like, you need to like at least he's like you need at least you'll know if
Yeah,
he doesn't
yeah.
want to talk to you now you'll know.
Yeah,
And
which is a very relatable
yeah,
thing in everybody's life, because it's like, you know, you're never gonna know unless you actually do it. So just talk to that
yep.
family member or whatever. So there's one more line in that scene where I really like, where Kevin, he's talking about his friend.
Oh, a sweatshirt.
He said, I had a friend get nailed because there was a rumor he wore dinosaur pajamas. So kids in the 2nd grade are trashing on kids that were wearing dinosaur pajamas still, which is really funny.
And I think that that line, because it's kind of like this very serious conversation, but he's still a kid. He's still a 9-year-old kid in 2nd grade.
He's talking about the horrors of 2nd grade kids.
Yeah. How he got the shirt that his grandma knitted a bird or something on it. Yeah.
Yeah, he's talking about how he's trauma dumping on the old man about his 2nd grade troubles. Back at the house, Kevin overhears Marv and Harry outside talking about what time they're going to come back to rob the house. And he's like 9:00 at night, and then Kevin starts preparing the house to defend it.
And he rolls out his battle plan.
He's got the battle plan.
In the crayon.
I can't tell you how many times I've seen projects
where
it's a you know, the Kevin's house battle plan or whatever.
Yeah.
I just saw another one this year, popped up the other day on Facebook. Somebody's kid did a project, and it was Kevin's battle plan. Every year I see that come up on something. Yeah. So that's another iconic part of the movie.
And this is where like all the booby traps, like the real like stuff
that's what
starts
I said,
to
booty
go
traps.
down. Booty traps.
I have in my notes while he's setting up all the traps, I said it once, I'll say it again. Kevin is a gifted engineer.
He is.
He's got an engineer's mind at 9-year-old, and he's the most talented engineer that I've ever seen, because he has so many crazy traps. Harry and Marv end up coming back to the house around 9 p.m. Kevin's all set up.
They're real punctual, by the way.
Yeah, like right on time. That clock goes off in Kevin's house.
Poor Kevin's like, man, I didn't get to eat my mac and
he's
cheese.
just about to sit down and eat. So they go up to, I think it's the back door, the main back door. And Kevin sticks the pellet rifle right on Harry's junk.
Yep.
He shoots Harry. And so Harry's got a nut shot for one from a pellet gun, point blank. My note about the beginning of this is, for some reason, I forgot that this is a 2-hour movie, probably like hour
45, yeah.
Maybe like hour 40 of actual movie, and then the rest is all, you know, credits and opening and stuff. But the break-in doesn't even happen until an hour and 17 minutes in the movie. And for some reason,
I didn't realize it was actually much shorter.
It's so short.
The funny thing is, I guess because I was watching it like very
segmented.
Yeah, I didn't realize how short that part really is, because I was like, as I was writing down like all of their injuries, it was very quick.
Yeah.
Before he was, you know, basically out the door.
I think it's because I have seen the second one so much, and I think the second one has a much bigger
it's longer
break-in part because of the New York one. But yeah, we got to this part, and I was like, wow, I paused it, and I was like, an hour and 17 in. I was like, I thought half this movie was the break-in.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was that quick either.
But it's such a quick thing when it actually does happen.
Yeah. I mean, I was literally like keeping up as I was typing like all the injuries, and I was like, wow, that was really short.
But this whole house scene, I wrote down, I said, it definitely feels like a Tom and Jerry sketch where Marv and Harry are getting hurt, but they're not dying, and they're not getting like maimed.
It's definitely cartoonish. And actually the art director, I think it was, or one of the men on the staff, this was kind of like a new thing for me. He's done shots but never did like a full where it's all gonna come together. And he watched a lot of cartoons.
That makes sense.
To, you know, develop this, you know, how he was going to shoot certain scenes. So it makes perfect sense that you said that, because it's what I guess inspired him.
I think it's a good mix though. It's just enough violence, but not too much where a kid would be like freaked out or grossed
It's enough
out.
violence but still funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The iron to the face trap is insane.
Yeah, that's insane.
When he pulls the light bulb switch and he looks up, and a part of me, I like the way they did it, but a part of me was like, that iron would have fell triangle down on him. It wouldn't have fallen like flat like that. But just imagine looking up and triangle pointy end first from an iron. Oh, it's just so bad. But it hits him flat on the face and gives him that scar.
It's the giant mark of the iron on his face.
I do really like that. And the sound effects are really good too for when they do get injured. They're pretty funny.
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely are.
I really like Marv and Harry the way they acted those scenes out with all the injuries that happened to them. They do a really good job of portraying that pain. Marv, the tar on the steps with the nail.
Yeah. It's actually a rubber foot that they use.
Yeah, they use a rubber foot there, but didn't use a rubber foot later, which is funny. But man.
But that part's gross. And then he like, so not only does he get the thing in his face, the iron, then he loses his shoes on the tar and goes right into that damn nail.
Socks.
Yeah.
On the tar too. Yeah. Because he's like, I don't know, he's like halfway up and he lost his socks. And then him just like that sound of him stepping on, like it only went like an eighth of the way into his foot. Or an eighth of the way down the nail. But that scene's so gross. But I like he picks his foot up and he slowly realizes what happened. And he starts screaming.
And then just falls backwards on his back again.
Yep. And falls back down in the basement. And then Harry tries to go into the door. And he has a flamethrower trap.
Oh yeah.
That is so gnarly.
I hate that. And when he goes in the snow and then he lifts his head up and you see it. That's gross.
I think before that, doesn't he do the hot doorknob?
The hand, the doorknob.
The hot doorknob is bad too.
Yeah.
Yeah, Marv. They both had similar injuries because Harry gets burned twice and Marv gets impaled. Or Marv, what was two? I guess Marv was the steps.
And the feet with the ornaments.
Oh, the feet. The feet. Yeah. So
his poor feet.
So yeah, the flamethrower.
Well, not really, because you're robbing a child. But.
The flamethrower was crazy, but then Marv just tries the window, and I feel like if you're a robber and you're going in through a window, why wouldn't you look at the ground that you're about to step on?
Especially a house you're unfamiliar with.
Yeah, but I know why, because they put the stuff down there. But apparently those were candy.
Yeah.
It was candy that he stepped on, but he said it hurt just as bad as what he assumes glass would be like. But yeah, he steps barefoot onto I can't imagine stepping onto Christmas ornaments that are
glass
that you're barefoot on, because I've dropped Christmas ornaments before, and you go to pick up
they just shatter.
Yeah, and you go to pick up the little tiny pieces, because I think they're normal Christmas ornaments when they're the balls, aren't they like ceramic or
there's some sort of
plastic
glass
or something? Oh, it is glass.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, just like stepping on, even picking those pieces up, I would cut my hand on them. You could never pick them up by hand because they're so tiny and sharp. Yeah. So you always have to sweep them up. But yeah, I can't imagine stepping on a ball and it breaking under your foot.
Yeah, that's gross. And then so right painful. After that is when they step on the
toy cars.
Were there Legos there too?
Probably, yeah.
And I'm thinking now that you're saying that, like, then not only does he do that, then he goes and steps on Legos and cars in those same bare feet.
Yeah. I wonder how many kids tried that stuff where you just put a pile of cars and see somebody, like, somebody's definitely gotten hurt throughout the years from kids piling, toy cars on the ground. The paint bucket scene's also terrible. Poor Marv.
I know.
Harry,
they both get hit.
Well, Harry ducks, right?
At first, yeah.
And then he comes back.
Yeah, poor Marv gets hit.
Dude,
I keep saying poor Marv, but he's literally a robber. So.
Poor Marv getting hit with the paint bucket. Dead. He's dead.
Oh, yeah. And then Harry right after that.
Harry dead. Marv dead.
See ya.
At least 3 times now. So all 3 end up upstairs. Marv is holding Kevin's leg because Kevin's trying to get to the attic. And this is where the tarantula, the whole movie showing this tarantula finally means something, because Kevin ends up grabbing the tarantula. Marv's scream is so good. Because Marv just freezes for a second.
Yeah.
And then he just freaks out. His scream is so good.
Yeah, his scream is great with that tarantula on his face. But then he gets up and the tarantula ends up on Harry.
Yeah.
Who's laying on the ground from falling over the wire.
And he has no idea the tarantula's on him.
No idea. And then Marv is trying to kill the tarantula and hits Harry in the chest with the crowbar. Totally misses the tarantula, by the way. And then Harry gets up and just starts beating Marv.
Yeah. How do you like it? The zip line to the treehouse is sick.
That is really cool.
There's no way he made that.
No.
With material he had on hand. But this kid's a genius. So
again, like you said,
he is a gifted engineer. But yeah, the zip line's sick. Although Kevin probably would have broke his legs.
Going through the treehouse.
Hitting the wood the wood planks together. And so Kevin's got broken legs now. And then Marv tries.
Would have been a whole different story if they actually suffered their injuries.
Yeah. I like how they get to the window and they can't find the kid, and Marv goes, maybe he committed suicide. And Harry looks at him like, you fucking idiot.
And then he's like, he's gonna call the cops from a treehouse.
Marv's so dumb.
He is dumb.
And then Marv and Harry end up getting ziplined into the brick house.
Yeah, because Kevin cuts the rope.
And they're dead again. Third time.
They died again.
They're now dead again. So then Kevin ends up running over to the neighbor's house.
The Murphys again, which are referenced quite a few times in the movie.
Yeah, and I don't get...
Well, he calls the police before he gets zip lines to the treehouse, whatever.
While they're still in the house, he tells them he's being robbed.
Yeah, but and I don't know why he didn't call them to his house. It always puzzled me.
Oh, they called him to the Murphys?
Yeah, he called them to the Murphys. He gave them the Murphys' address, and that's when after the whole treehouse scene, he goes running over to there, and you see him go. He goes through the basement, and that's where you see the flooding.
But this is what I don't understand. He had to have cased that house before to know the basement was unlocked. There's no way he didn't.
Well, not necessarily, but they all know each other in the neighborhood.
Right, but how does he know that door's unlocked to get into the house?
I don't know.
He had to have checked it, which means he went to that house to check it, saw the water was on, and just left the water.
I don't think he necessarily was like, let me go case the Murphys' house.
You can't tell me that he had this whole plan laid out and he said, I'm not even going to check to see if any of those doors are unlocked across the street when he knows nobody's home. There's no way you're telling me that he didn't check that house.
Well, okay, let's say he did, and he just saw that the door was unlocked. It didn't mean that he might have just checked it.
No, I refuse.
You are thinking a lot into this.
Yeah, the grocery.
He's 9.
The grocery woman is telling me I'm thinking too much into this. I am telling you, he went to the house, opened it, saw the water was running, and said, "Fuck it, it's not my house," and just left the water running.
I just don't think he did that.
There's no way he didn't case that house out to make sure this plan would work. There's no way. Because then,
do you think it was his plan all along though to go to their house?
It had to have been.
Not necessarily.
Yes. Where do you think because he called the police to the house?
Right, but I don't know that it was his plan all along. Maybe he was like, I need to get out of my house. I know the Murphys' address or something.
It was part of it. He planned the whole thing out.
Here's my other thing. Thinking about things that don't make sense real quick. Back to Old Man Marley for a second. Old Man Marley had to know at the church that this child was by himself.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So, okay, let's say he cased the house, whatever. So he goes to the house.
Let's not say he cased that house and left the water on.
He goes to the house. He's like, I'm going to be smart. I'm going to go through the basement.
One more note about that. Because you see him go to the basement. He is not fazed at all by the fact that the basement's covered in water. He's not like, oh shit, there's water everywhere. He's like, oh yeah, I knew this was here. I'm going to go through it.
Oh my God.
So here's another thing for my theory. He knew the water was in there. And he was like, I'm just going to leave the water running in their house.
So, oh well. Okay, let's say he did. Who cares?
So Kevin hates the Murphys.
Well, Mitch was going through his stuff.
Kevin hates the Murphys. I have discovered this. Kevin does not like his neighbors, and he said, fuck them kids, and let their house flood for like 3 days.
For once, the robbers outsmarted him.
Right, because they get to the Murphys'
house. He goes to the basement and comes up, and they're at the door at the top of the stairs.
Was where the old man comes in.
Yeah, so they got Kevin up, hanging on whatever, a hook or something on the door.
And they tell him all the stuff they're going to do to him.
Yeah, and it's funny because Joe Pesci actually bites Kevin's finger, real.
He said he broke skin.
Yeah. But, so, then somehow Old Man Marley knows he's there. How? How does Old Man Marley know he's at the Murphys?
It's such a weird way to end that.
Yeah, because like he just shows up.
He shows up, hits him with a shovel.
And then it's over.
And then I wrote in my notes, I said, oh my God, he is the shovel slayer. He just knocks him out with the shovel. He's the shovel slayer
after all. But how did he know he was there? I'm watching it today. I'm like, okay. And I thought about this before, but like.
I guess he saw everybody run over to the house. Maybe,
I guess.
Because he lives right there.
Yeah, he is their next door neighbor, or his next door neighbor.
So I guess he just happened to. Or maybe he was going to go tell Kevin, oh, I called my son.
Yeah, maybe.
And he's like, why are there 2 men chasing Kevin into the Murphys? But yeah, so then the cops show up at the Murphys.
Yeah, the cops finally get there.
Yeah, so the cops show up at the Murphys. But I think the old man takes Kevin back home, right?
Yeah, he carries him or something. Yeah, because then you see him at the door, at the window.
I just want to know what old man Marley thought of the house. Because the house is kind of trashed.
I don't know if he necessarily went in or he was just like, here, you're safe.
Off, yeah.
Again, no parents.
Again, just left them alone. But I like how the police are taking him out, and they're like, oh, your calling card is turning the sink on. Now we know every house you've robbed in the past 2 years or whatever.
And Marv's so proud of that.
Marv's like, yeah, we're the Wet Bandits. Harry's like, shut up, Marv. The Wet Bandits is such a funny title for robbers.
I love it.
Considering what they do.
Yeah.
Well, considering what Marv does, just leaves the water running.
And you see them being taken away from the cop car, and Kevin just gives that little snarky wave and a smile.
Yeah. We get in the last John Candy scene with the polka band.
Oh yeah, they're riding in the truck.
And I like how this small polka band is away from their house 49 out of the 52 weeks in a year. They're a small polka band. They're not
trying to make it, Matthew.
He said, I hope they don't write a book about him. They're talking about how awful parenting job they've all done. He's like, he hasn't even seen his kid. And then there's another scene where I'm like, it's dragging on a little too long. But I do like
that scene was a little long, but
I do like John Candy's character's story about his son.
Funeral.
Yeah.
The funeral home.
He's like, oh no, I've never done anything that bad. He's like, well, I did leave my kid in a funeral home with a dead body for a whole day. Which is funny when you know when you realize it's improv. He just made that up on the spot. Which I guess is why she was so. She's like, can we stop talking about this? She didn't even know what to say to that.
So at this point, it's Christmas morning. So Kevin wakes up.
Yeah. So now we're at the next morning.
He's all hopeful. Like for some reason, he thinks his family's magically going to be there because it's Christmas Day. So he gets up all excited, running around looking for his mom, and she's not there yet.
And you notice how clean the house is?
Yeah, he worked hard overnight. Like he really stepped
spotless.
up. He's like, I got to clean. They're coming back.
But I just had this thought in my head. I'm like, what if there's one trap he forgot about? And there's like a second flamethrower set up somewhere. And his mom's walking through the house. She like opens the door and just flamethrowers her head.
And the hairspray, ooh, she's done for.
I wish there was a scene where he's like, oh, I forgot about one thing. And then he like runs downstairs and like cuts a wire or something for like an axe that's going to swing down.
Oh my God.
I wish they would have put a scene in where he forgot about a trap. But it is nice to see the mom back with the kid. Obviously, Kevin and his mom get reunited.
Yeah, she comes through the door. She didn't realize the rest of her family had gotten on the original flight that she said is 2 days away. I can't wait that long. And they all end up back in the house at the same time.
Yeah, it is funny that he's like, oh, we just took the flight that you were supposed to be on. And they end up at the house at the same exact time.
But it's funny because, so I guess it's Christmas Day at this point, and she's like, oh, we got to get milk. And Kevin's like, oh, I went shopping yesterday. Little side note, though, he claimed he got eggs shopping. He did not get eggs at the store. But he had milk in the house.
One more grocery note from the grocery lady.
I apparently was really fascinated by the groceries. But the family's so shocked that he was able to kind of handle himself this whole time.
Yeah.
Like without them there.
And now
like,
they all
went
respect
shopping
him
and
for
he did
something.
laundry and all this stuff.
Yeah, now they're all like, oh, Kevin, you're such a respectable person now. We like you now.
Yeah, we like you. You didn't burn the house down.
Yeah, good job not burning the house down, bud. One of my favorite scenes in the movie is one of the final scenes where Marley sees his son and his family.
Yeah, Kevin's looking out the window and sees him with this, that they reconciled.
It's such a good ending to see old man Marley talk to his son and his granddaughter that meets his son's wife and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that scene a lot. And then we get one last little scene where Buzz freaks out. His room's trashed, and then you get Kevin making that face. And that's,
Kevin, what have you done to my room?
Yep, and that's
the end.
The end of Home Alone 1. I just have one last note because now we know the phone lines are on, like days before Marv and Harry robbed the house. So instead of Kevin calling the cops and saying, hey, the robbers are going to be back at 9 p.m. tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Can you guys come chill and then you'll arrest them when they enter my house? He decides to set up a bunch of death traps around the house, possibly killing 2 people and trashing half the house and ziplining, almost suiciding himself, ziplining to the tree house. Instead of just calling the cops when he knew their plan was to come back at 9 p.m.
Yep, it doesn't make the most sense.
But I guess the only reason...
that's the fun of it.
I guess the only reason to justify that is because he thought he was a criminal because he stole the toothbrush. But I just love that he's concocted the whole plan to almost murder 2 people instead of just calling the cops when he knew exactly what was going to happen.
Well, to be fair, they were coming after him. Yeah. So he had to defend himself.
a gifted engineer, but also a sociopath. I think he wanted to.
Oh my God.
I think he wanted to hurt those two people.
Well,
he could have just called the cops and that whole situation would have been handled.
It's funny because I've seen fan theories, and I didn't look them up for this, but I've heard them before, that people are convinced that the dad staged the whole thing to have Kevin killed.
I've heard.
And I'm just like, that is so dark.
I've heard that. What's your rating for Home Alone?
Oh, I always feel like I give the movie such high scores.
We've seen a lot of movies you like, so.
We're going to have to do one I hate next.
Oh, I'll get you on this one.
I love Home Alone.
Right.
I
obviously,
genuinely
by your
love it. That's got to be
Is it a 10
there.
for me? Or is it a 10 for you? Is it better than Angels in the Outfield?
You mean Field of Dreams?
God damn it, I always get that. Is it better than Field of Dreams?
No.
Wow, it's not.
It's...
Is it because it's only a
if
Christmas movie?
I'm rating just Christmas movies, it's 10. But if I'm rating it overall, it's like 8.5, 9.
Okay.
It's a great movie. There's nothing bad about it.
Do you want my...
Are you going to rate it low? I'm going to kick you under the table.
It's like a... Because I don't know if it's because I watched it right after I woke up or if I was just in a bad mood yesterday, but the first half really drags it down. So this is like a 6.5, 7. I love the second half.
How dare you?
I love
a
the
6.5?
It's like 6.5, 7. It's not above Jurassic Park for me. It's not above.
It's definitely above Jurassic Park for me. I have to start keeping a log of what I rated because I think I rated Sandlot a 9 as well.
Yeah, you did, I think.
It's as good as Sandlot.
It's no. I would say 7.5 as the highest I'll go, but I feel better at a 7.
All right, I'll give it to you.
It was just that first, I don't know. Might have been in a bad mood. But my rating from watching yesterday fully through for the first time in God knows how long,
But I think that
like
perspective's good because it's not, you haven't seen it so much. Like I could talk about Home Alone for hours because I just have seen it so much. Like I literally was watching it this morning. It's probably the third or fourth time I've watched it this season, so far, this holiday season. And I can recite almost the entire movie word for word.
Yeah,
that's how much I've watched it.
This isn't that movie for me. So is this the best Christmas movie?
Yeah.
Hands down. Nothing beats it.
I think it is the best Christmas movie.
I think
it's my favorite Christmas movie.
I think it's one of the best.
I love Christmas movies, though. Like, I watch Christmas movies all the time.
There are a few Christmas movies I really love, and you probably hate me for saying this one, but I love Eight Crazy Nights.
I've never seen it.
With Adam Sandler.
Yeah,
the animated one.
That's a Hanukkah movie, not a Christmas movie, though.
It's the same thing. I think I like that more than this.
I would say, like, my top Christmas movies, it's this, Christmas Vacation, Christmas Story, and It's a Wonderful Life are probably my top.
Christmas Vacation and A Wonderful Life are, I think, better than these two. Better than Home Alone, in my opinion.
To me, It's a Wonderful Life is just a different level of movie.
It's also kind of depressing. Wonderful Life is much more of a downer movie for the most part.
But it's a different level. It's not... This is such a different feel. So, like, It's a Wonderful Life is up there for me, but I still think Home Alone is something I can watch again and again and again and again.
Yeah, you don't want to watch A Wonderful Life, like, more than once a season, probably.
Yeah, I probably watch that once a season,
All right, that takes care of episode 4, which we'll be releasing before episode 3, but don't worry about that. This will be episode 3, even though it's episode 4, but we'll be in Jurassic Park after this. That'll be released. Yeah, let us know what you thought about Home Alone, or if you've never seen it, because I would love to hear from somebody who's never seen it.
It'd be fun to hear a first time.
Yeah, a first time viewer would be awesome. But thank you everybody for listening to episode 4 of Not the Front Row Podcast. Come check us out for episode 3 of Jurassic Park.
Thanks so much.
Up next.
Happy holidays.
Have a good Christmas. Happy New Year. Bye.
Bye. Crushed it.
Crushed it.